Welcome in, everybody. We are back with another episode of Fourth and Dynasty, brought to you by Dynasty Pros. You have Brian and Cody sitting here ready for some fun. Cody, how we doing today?
Really good. You see the breaking news trade that came out today? That was pretty intense.
Sure did. Let's jump right into it, man. This is happening just moments, an hour or so before we're hopping in here to record. But yes, Stefon Diggs is getting out of Buffalo, heading down to Houston. Initial reactions, Cody, what you got for us?
Vikings fans tried to tell the Bills. We tried to tell them. I actually put out a tweet or a post today on X saying, Stefon Diggs, Jimmy Butler shaking hands because they've both screwed Minnesota. So, but now Buffalo is in the same boat. So if he doesn't like how many touches he gets, it just seems like something on the back end always goes wrong with him. The production's always there and stuff like that. So it's how many years are you willing to put up with it?
And I think that's the interesting thing, because when it comes down to his play towards the end of last season and just what we've put up with, you would understand him getting shipped out. But it's the $31 million cap hit. That's the hard part for us to fathom. And a contending team willing to take, because the Broncos, who cares? They can take on cap hit because they're doing nothing. But the Bills are in contention. They are prime Josh Allen years right now. So the fact of them taking a $30 million hit, letting Gabe Davis walk, Curtis Samuel, I had him way too many places in Dynasty this past year. I was thinking, how am I going to get rid of him? Can I ship him off for anything? And right now, I'm loving life with this guy. So yeah. I think this is great for CJ Stroud. I really don't know if it's a positive move for Diggs himself, but I definitely think it's great for Stroud. And honestly, I think it's great for Josh Allen. Dude crushed last year when Diggs was doing terribly. Why? Because he was running and doing it all. It was the Josh Allen show. So if we get more or less of that with a rookie receiver in there, I'm pretty excited. Like, he's going to get that number one.
Yeah, I think it's more along the lines of Patrick Mahomes proved it without Tyreek Hill. So I think Josh Allen kind of wants to prove it too. And maybe the Buffalo Bills want to prove that they don't need him as well. And the question is he good enough? Is Josh Allen good enough to do it? A lot of people might say yes. We have to wait and see, obviously. But yeah, I would. Are you going to be surprised if they're not trying to make a play for T. Higgins now too?
Honestly, I think that makes the most sense at this point because, really, they are Khalil Shakir. Is that's the only other
Khalil Shakir and Mac Hollins? Top three.
I think KJ Hamler might be on that roster as well. But it's gross. Now, we do have two tight ends. Dawson Knox did just sign that contract extension. I believe it was last summer or the summer beforehand. So, we're going to see him plenty involved. We've got Dalton Kincaid, who I know the believers in Dalton Kincaid. They are popping the champagne right now. They're loving life.
Yes, they definitely are.
If I would be very much surprised if that first pick for the Bills doesn't either go for T. Higgins.
Also, are you surprised that they only got a second back and they had to give some picks up with Diggs and taking the cap hit?
Not too surprised, no. We've seen a lot of these older receivers with these big contracts, and if teams can get rid of them, they ship them off. Deontay Johnson didn't go for a whole hell of a lot. We've seen Allen Robinson got shipped off for a 6th-round pick just to move that contract. So, I'm sure the Bills were just trying to not only get that, the player himself, the drama that he brings, but also the money. Just, it's time to move on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, man. Crazy stuff, though. I'm excited. CJ Stroud, right now he's going at QB6 in best ball. That's still too rich for me. Where are you at on that?
I think it's still a little bit too rich for me too, but man, if I had CJ Stroud, I would be trolling my chats right now for sure.
100%. Yeah, I just actually just took over an orphan, and Collins. I just put Collins on the trade block a few days ago. I was like, I've got too many receivers. Let me get him out of here because I'm not really sure. We got question marks on the contract year. Yeah, he's not getting moved right now. There's no way anybody's going to pay top dollar for him.
Yeah, it's more of who benefits more, Collins or Dell, or do they both just stock low now?
I'm sure, I don't know if their value in what they're actually going to produce goes down, but I think the price that you can get for them definitely goes down because
Yeah,
people are now buying it with a little asterisk. If Diggs is actually, if he's not cooked, he is going to eat out of that,
for
out
sure.
of there. But I mean, hell, we saw the Rams do it before with three wide receivers and Todd Gurley out there getting a decent reception share. So it can
Yeah,
be
that's
done.
true.
Definitely can be done. Well, now that we've exhausted that a little bit, I feel like I just want to keep talking about it. But we have got a whole lot of rookies to dive into, just a mere 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. And today we're going to dive into quarterbacks and running backs. We do have the specialist himself. Cody is going to dive through all these guys. He's going to fill me in with, hey, I know their heights, I know their weights, and the speeds, but I need to know the good stuff, and that's why we've got you here. You ready to get rolling?
I'm ready. I love this time of year.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to start off with quarterbacks, of course, because that's just they fall first. I don't know why, but Caleb Williams, he's been talked about, you know, at length. He is almost guaranteed by the sportsbook to be going first overall to the Bears. Tell me, what don't we know? What are we in for with Caleb Williams?
I think a lot of the Caleb Williams camp is kind of made up because I think want to be they want the Chicago not to take him, so then they can trade up to get him. He's best is off balance, and I mean it kind of had to be based off the O line that he had. The best thing about Caleb Williams that no one else does is he is the best at moving defenders with his eyes. His eyes are his biggest weapon, along with his effortless throws and natural instincts. That's also a plus, but the way he moves defenders and bites defenders into thinking the ball's going somewhere and he can get it to somewhere else, that's the best aspect of Caleb Williams, in my opinion. Where things that he can improve on when he's rushing the with the ball and stuff, he needs to learn how to tuck. He's one of those. He's not a natural born runner, but he can run. But he also needs to learn to tuck the ball in so he doesn't fumble the ball. And again, this one might come down to he didn't have much time, but his footwork is a little sloppy, where I'm seeing a little bit too many of off balance throws, but they're still accurate. Now, when the defenders are a second or two faster, will that affect it?
For sure. Yeah,
So that's
that will be the interesting thing. I think that's a big possibility with that second pick that the Bears have. Do they take a tackle? There's a lot of solid tackles in this draft, or do they take a wide receiver? Wide receiver would be great to kind of fill in for Keenan Allen after this year him being on a contract year, but at the same time making sure that they protect him is going to be the number one thing. I'm pretty sure they picked up a couple guys in free agency, stopgap guys, but I'm not sure if that's truly going to give him enough time back there.
they didn't give enough time for Justin Fields and they shipped him out, so hopefully it doesn't happen again. But we'll see. I think if I was Ryan Poles, I would be going one of the top tackles at 9 because one of the top 3 is going to be there, and that's who I would be going for sure. There's no
Protect your
question
franchise
about it.
guy.
Because now you have Keenan Allen, but you also have more picks too with a loaded wide receiver class where you now have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. DJ Moore is still young and getting into his prime right now, and you can get another rookie that can learn with Keenan Allen for the year or two that you have him. But it's not as much of a priority now at 9 as much as tackle is, in my opinion.
For sure. The wide
So that's
receiver
where I
that
would
they
be
could
going.
get in the second round would be way better than the tackle that would most likely be available.
Agreed.
Well, I feel like he's as close to a slam dunk as we can say at this point. He's locked into number one. We're hoping everything goes well there. Obviously Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be a slam dunk, and we're still not 100% sure where we're at with that one. So I'm excited for the Bears. Let's hope they finally get their 4,000-yard guy. But
I agree.
Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams might be the NFL number one quarterback, but honestly, I think for me, the fantasy number one quarterback has to be Jaden Daniels, just with the dual threat ability. We've seen him win the Heisman. He can do it with his arm. He can do it with his legs. give me Jaden Daniels. Put him in a milkshake. Shake him out. What do you get?
Jaden Daniels is a natural playmaker. He's the closest thing we're going to get in this draft to a Lamar Jackson, but he's a better thrower coming out. So he needs to learn how to slide like Lamar Jackson did. That's why I would be watching a lot of Lamar Jackson tape from this year to see how he avoided tackles. He needs to quicken his release a little bit. I know all last week we saw the elbow, his weird elbow situation.
So weird.
And apparently it wasn't photoshopped, but his release needs to be a little bit quicker, but he has that deep ball accuracy. So that makes up for it. And like Caleb Williams, his eyes are good, not as good, but I do like his pre-snap recognition. I think he is one of the better ones. Drake May is another one that I like his pre-snap recognition a little bit more. But it's just Jaden Daniels' pre-snap recognition is so good. He can detect where the blitz is coming from. He can get both of his receivers that are going to be going in the top or in the first round too open. And I mean, it helps that both of them have 4.4 speed. But that's the way Jaden Daniels is. He has a natural confidence about him. But with that confidence comes a lackadaisical. He kind of seems lackadaisical in the pocket sometimes, leading to sailed balls where they're the easy throws where he knows he can make them, but he kind of just takes it for granted. So it's like, just do what you're told and do your job, but don't forget about the easy ones either. So that kind of happens. You kind of saw it with sales of like a 5-yard in route or some batted balls, even just waiting for a better, more stat heavy pass to come through.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So is he a guy that you're going to see that is going to be like landing spot proof? Because for most of what we see, Drake May should be going to Washington. The hiring of Cliff Kingsbury and the backup quarterback of Marcus Mariota may point to Jaden Daniels going there. But I guess I'm more alluding to the fact that if Jaden Daniels goes to the Patriots, are we still confident in his fantasy abilities there? You know, like, is he still worthy of one of those top 3 picks in a super flex league?
I still think he would be because Bill Belichick isn't there. So I think, and they finally have a offensive coordinator where if you're taking Jaden Daniels, you know you have to change up your offense. And if they don't, then, I mean, obviously, we really can't put it on the player for him not succeeding. We're going to put it on the team. Mm-hmm. So why did the team draft him if they weren't going to play to his strengths, you know? That's how I always think. So even if Jaden Daniels is there at 3 and they don't trade the pick, I would see them going with J.J. McCarthy before Jaden Daniels if they wanted to go the old style. Now, that might be a pipe dream, but I don't see it.
I don't hate that because of the fact of, like, there were rumors that the Minnesota actually tried to move up for Richardson last year. Yeah. So the thought of them possibly, if Daniels slips because of, you know, whatever reasons, and he's there at 4 or 5, you'd have to think that, you know, Minnesota already had a plan to have this archetype of quarterback. So sliding in Jaden Daniels, who's just a skinnier, you know, a leaner version of Richardson, I love the thought of that. For it, just, you know, it's like 90s Minnesota, like Dante Culpepper and Randy Moss-esque is what you'd feel like with that combination out there. Absolutely. I got goosebumps just thinking of it right now. Oh my gosh.
You know what? Me too. But we'll find out in 3 weeks, and I cannot wait for it. But it just, he's not system proof for sure. If someone's going to take him, they have to play to his strengths, or else he's not going to succeed.
Kind of like Justin.
I think the only one system proof is Caleb Williams, to be honest.
Nice. Because that takes us to Drake May and J.J. McCarthy. These are the other two that are considered in the top 4 here. These guys, Drake May definitely has a longer history of, I feel like coming out of last year, Caleb Williams, Drake May were supposed to already written off as 1-2. So J.J. McCarthy's the one with the newfound hype. Potentially could be a top 10 pick right now. Give me a quick breakdown to these two. Quick likes, quick dislikes?
So Drake May has the prototypical build, and that's one of the big aspects of it. He's got a great deep ball. He's athletic, But the biggest thing, and again, it's like Caleb Williams, he's great under pressure, but he was under pressure the whole time, so it didn't look like it. But for what he had to deal with that offensive line, he really did a good job. And I guess some of the cons is his pocket presence sometimes got him in trouble where the pre-snap recognition needs to be a little bit improved because sometimes he got blindsided a little bit too many times where he could have picked out where the blitz was coming from. He also needs to learn to work through his progressions. Now, again, that might just be because the line was so bad. Go back and look. And they're ranked like 135th out of like 138 in O-line play last year. It was not good. But work through his progressions because if Tez Walker wasn't open, he kind of just didn't go anywhere else, and he was just running with the ball and trying to find something that was open. So he needs to learn to live a fight another day. And another big aspect of I was talking about feet earlier with Caleb Williams, same thing with Drake May here. Instead of he needs a steady feet, he has bouncy feet. So it's kind of he does back step throws or back shoulder throws just a little bit too often for me. But with a good quarterback coach and good proper form at the next level, that can easily be addressed. Now, JJ McCarthy, again, like he's won at every level. He's clutch. He's got the clutch gene, and no one can take that away from him. Now, people will say they had 30 straight runs against Penn State. That just proves that he wants to win. So, like, he's got all of that stuff with him. When he needed to throw, he's got good set throws. So if he is on the clock and on pace where he needs to go, he can make any throw he needs.
Yeah. I saw somebody
Now
throw out a stat that
again. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I saw somebody throw out like stats on JJ McCarthy, and I think it was all but like 5 or 6 games were they not up by 12 points going into halftime.
Exactly.
So like when you have a double-digit lead like that, you're not going to need to throw the ball. And I know it's kind of a cop-out answer for some of that because it leaves you with unknown, but at least it's not definitive yes or no. You know, it's still leaving you with gray area where there's possibilities. So
yeah, so
I think that's what we have to understand with him.
The biggest thing about JJ McCarthy that everyone's loving him and hyping him, right? Like he is smart and everything like that, and he's good at set stuff. I think that's kind of where Drake May needs to learn to live another down. I think JJ McCarthy needs to learn how to take a little bit more risk. Just because in the NFL, sometimes your players aren't open. You got to make them open. And I don't think he's willing to make that throw at the moment. So it just kind of seems like this isn't a knock either. Like he's a Kirk Cousins-esque type of guy. Like
yeah.
Before he got to Minnesota, because with Justin Jefferson, he learned how to just touch throw. He'll go and get it. He needs people to be open, and then he'll get on the ball. I think that's where he needs to learn a bit more. He goes through his progressions a little bit too fast and then settles for check downs.
Well, he's definitely going to be tested here in the NFL because it seems like he's going to obviously a team that's going to be picking in the top 10, so they may not be the best overall.
Yeah.
But, we're excited to see what he can do. The next two guys we have are going to be Michael Penix and Bo Nix. I'm going to give you the cheap answer here. These guys are old. Bo Nix is already 24. Penix is going to be 24 by the time the league starts. There's nothing against that, but the fact that statistically when the guys come into the league this old at quarterback, they do not succeed. It's a laundry list of guys. It just does not happen. And another thing, too, is they're going to need to go to teams to start soon. You know, they're not going to be able to go sit as a late-round pick, behind somebody for a couple of years. They need good opportunities, and they're not going in the top 10. So with these guys going low, they could be going to sit. Like I know, a lot of talk is Penix going to Seattle. Would be great to sit behind Geno and eventually take over there. The coach coming from Washington, all that that lovely storyline. But the fact is, if he's not starting in the next year, he's hitting that cusp, and I don't know. There's just not a lot of hope there. So temper expectations. Shot in the dark, super flex. Rookie pick, of course, but temper expectations. You have anything else there before we go to the other two?
No, you pretty much nailed it on the head. Bo Nix, his field awareness is questionable. Going from Auburn to Oregon, it didn't really improve. We know Michael Penix is a pure thrower, so No, I think you nailed it on the head. Age is the biggest aspect of this.
And
In
Penix does
regards,
have mobility, but he's got robot legs at this point. He's had what,
yeah,
ACL surgeries on both and multiple on one?
yeah, you don't want him running.
Yeah.
You want to
Despite
protect
him
his
looking
legs.
like he still can.
Yeah, and
But
I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
he had great numbers, and he probably helped his stock a lot. And like a place like I mean, this is the obvious answer, but like a place like Minnesota where he could just get under their quarterback coach, whatever is Josh McCown and KOC, and just have an offense like that could just open it up for him. He'd be really good in.
For
But
sure.
I'd
He is
want
a
him.
great deep ball.
But I'd want him to
Amazing.
sit a year behind Sam Darnold, and
Ugh.
why would I rather have a 24-year-old sit 1 year when I could take the 20-year-old to sit 1 year?
Yeah. I think the hard part is, though, if they move up, they might be giving up that 2025 first round pick. And if Sam
You're
Darnold's
not
your
doing it.
starting quarterback,
Yeah,
that's going to be another top pick.
we're gonna
Um,
see. We're gonna see how that works out.
The last two guys we have here are going to be Jordan Travis, who I do have familiarity with because obviously we saw him running all over in highlights for college football. Did have that pretty bad injury, so he's fallen down draft boards, but that athleticism's there. He, out of all of these non-top four guys, I think he presents the highest upside as far as fantasy just because of that mobility. And then we've got one other guy on the list here that you want to bring up.
Yeah, that's Michael Pratt. So he didn't really do well Senior Bowl. Probably hurt his stock a little bit, and he didn't really throw at he wasn't really memorable at the scouting combine either. But his tape just reminds me of Russell Wilson a lot. Like I think he's the most Russell Wilson esque at the beginning of what Russell Wilson was before he was quote unquote cooked. But it just he's really smart. Between the hash throws, they're amazing. So and he's got probably the most steady feet out of the whole class, which makes him his form is pure, but he does tend to duck some throws. And on touch throws, they're a little flat. We want him a little bit more arc, so that tends to have some bat downs and stuff like that. But I like Michael Pratt as a sneaky sixth, seventh round pick that could potentially be the Brock Purdy this year. I'm not saying he's going to be, but
Yeah, so many
if I was
things.
gonna bet the farm on someone of a lower round quarterback that's gonna hit, it's Michael Pratt.
Yeah, so many things have to go right for those Brock Purdy situations to go
Yes.
right. But even if you're picking him up with a round three, round four rookie pick, and his starter goes down and he gets a handful of starts, you're able to flip him all of a sudden for now maybe a second round pick or something like that. So it's all about the value here. You're not necessarily always going to be grabbing starters in the third and fourth rounds. That's why they're third and fourth round picks. But it's just the opportunity to increase in value with those picks is all you're looking to do sometimes. Because, obviously pukas don't grow on trees, unfortunately.
We wish.
All right, let's head to running backs because we have so many guys to talk about because unfortunately we have no studs. We have no studly dudleys in this class. We have could be, hope to be, hope to be, hope to be, probably won't. So I've got Trey Benson written on the top of my list here. Unless you want to go elsewhere, let's head to Florida State. Start with the
Let's
Seminole.
head to Florida State. What do
We've
you
got
know about Trey Benson? What do
Trey
you like
Benson
about him?
is 6 foot. He is 216. That is my favorite part about him. He fits that prototypical build that you want, and he had a pretty good 40 time. So like when you mix that speed and that size, that's really all I know to go for. I'm not great with watching for running backs, but the thing I like to go for is that combination of speed and size, and he does a pretty good job out of it.
So yeah, he's fluid in the passing game too, which is gonna be I mean, that's an X factor now for running backs, right? Like you have to be good with your hands as well. And he's got a nice little bag of tricks in regards to not just having like a juke move or a spin. He's a little shifty. He's shiftier than you would expect out of a bigger guy.
I like Shifty.
Though
I like Shifty.
yeah. So sometimes I do see though, like with that shiftiness, his feet are too quick for his hips, which can be a little bit of a bad thing in regards to cutting inside or out in inside running lanes. But
see, I've actually got the opposite problem. My feet are too slow for my hips, and that's why I topple
yes,
over so much. Yeah,
oh,
it's a
100%.
shame.
But he makes up for it for his lateral quickness. Like when his feet are outside and he has to cut like between on the line of scrimmage, he's good. But yeah, he's a little bit too. His feet are a little bit too quick for his hips, and he seeks contact a little bit too often. He likes to put his shoulder down and run over people. Now, in this modern day and age, that might work because he's only going to probably get 15, 20 touches. Like you said, there's really no studs. There's really no 3-down backs, but he's one that we can start and have fun with. So for like tens of landing spots, I would love to see him as a New York Giant.
That was going to be my question before we slid to the next one is landing spot. Giants are definitely one of those teams that they have Devin Singletary, but that's about it. That's a nice workload if he's going to New York. That would be a
Yep.
very good fantasy option, even this first year, I believe. Do you see day 2 capital with him then, either round 2 or
Yeah,
round 3?
he's probably going to be one of the first off the board. Like you said, we have no idea which running back is going to go off the board. It's really based off preference with a lot of these guys. But I would bet money he's probably in the top 4 of going.
Awesome. Jonathan Brooks, the what should be number 1 running back in this class. Poor fella tore his ACL last fall, so he's not going to be. He may be there at week 1, but he might be starting off on the PUP list. 6 feet tall, 207 pounds. I really like this guy. Watching his tape, this was probably one of my favorite running backs to watch. But give me a little insight on him. What's there to love about Jonathan Brooks?
Well, just like you, I loved watching his tape. The best thing about it, he has a good control of his pace, of his body pace, and just where he wants to go and where he needs to be. He knows what he's doing as a running back, and that's another thing that you're trying to look for. You're trying to look for consistency, and Jonathan Brooks has that with good vision, and his first step, whether he's going into a pass or he's running, is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, if he is breaking away and he needs to make a one cut or one little move, that's where I kind of question him. He seems to be either getting caught a little bit too much or he can't shake that last defender to really break one out. Now, I'll take the 25-yard run for the first down, but where's that breakaway stuff that I need to see? That's where he needs to improve a little bit. And obviously having the injury is not going to help. So sustainability is another con, but because he has only 1 year of production too. Yeah. Now he had to sit behind Bijan Robinson and a host of complimentary backs, but he still produced while Bijan was there. So I'm not too worried about him.
So question for you then, as a contending team, say you either won the chip, you finish right there at the end. It looks like right now, as of today, with the Stephon Diggs trade, the 109 in Superflex League, those top 9 picks are very sought after. Those are the ones we know a pretty solid player is going to be there. After that, I think it's going to be landing spot preference.
Yep.
Is Jonathan Brooks in consideration with one of those last 3 first-round picks with the draft capital of maybe, I feel like it's like the worst kept secret in football right now, but the guy that did the surgery for Jonathan Brooks is the medical professional for the Cowboys. So yeah. The kid coming out of UT going up there, I feel like it makes, storyline falls in. So,
it's a match made in heaven.
If we get a matchup like that, is that something you're considering with your first round pick as a contender? Kind of reloading your running back room.
Yes.
That early? Nice.
If Brooks is going to Dallas, I'm picking him up everywhere I can. Now that's obviously if the quarterbacks and the wide receivers are off the board, and even Brock Bowers, I'd probably take before him. But yeah, it's all landing spot. Like you can kind of make that argument with any of the running backs this year. Whoever gets picked up by the Cowboys is going to skyrocket up some boards, just because they know they're going to get playing time, and that's where it's like Am I going to take the risk with Brooks? Yes, because I'm going to wait 4 games and I can still get Rico Dowdle in the 10th or 11th round and get Jonathan Brooks in my rookie drafts. Or even I can trade a 3rd or a 4th round pick to get Rico Dowdle for the first 4 weeks. I'm going to do that all day. So then I have the handcuff and then the rookie to come in after that.
And he'll be fresh and ready to go just in time for the fantasy playoffs too.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's the worst kept secret, but it is really the best fit. You want a mixture of Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, that's Jonathan Brooks for you.
Yeah, he's not quite as matchup dependent as Devon Achane is, but the Devon Achane to the Dolphins was the best fit for him and the Dolphins last year,
Exactly.
coming out of the draft. So I feel like this is definitely one of those feelings I get here. Gosh, I just monopolizing the whole thing here. I'm talking about all 3 of my favorite guys here. Let's move on to big brilliance over here. Braylon, the insert awesome nickname here, Allen. Oh my goodness. The guy's only 20. He won't even be able to drink a beer to celebrate his first NFL victory this year. He's young. He's a monster. He eats kindergartners for breakfast. This guy's 5'11", 235. Just enormous. He has the production that we needed in college all 3 years. He's got red flags, but I think it's just because he had a red jersey on. Maybe that's what we're seeing there. Maybe they're not true red flags. I'm trying not to get overly hype here, but tell me why should we be tempering our expectations a little bit with Braylon Allen?
His open field running confidence can be questionable, and obviously he had too many fumbles. I mean, those are the 2 big ones. He can catch, but lacks confidence in it. But he showed at his pro day, which there's articles and we have video of it on Dynasty Pros YouTube, where it shows like a bunch of routes run, and he actually looked way more confident in that. So, but he's not in pads then, right? He kind of seems like he lacks confidence in the passing game, and he wants to catch with his body a little bit too much without his hands.
So you're saying a near teenager is having confidence issues?
Yes,
something
exactly.
that can be easily fixed the farther we get from those teenage years.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But 5.9 yards per carry and 35 touchdowns, and he just turned 20 with almost 3,500 yards rushing in 3 years. He's the only, and I think we're probably the only real pro Braylon Allen fans as a podcast, because there's a lot of hate for Braylon Allen. And you know what? Keep shipping them down boards, because I'm going to eat them up every time, because he's the only one that could be a true 3-down back if you want him to be.
And it's wild. I feel like I'm the one that contrarian, I hate going with the masses with stuff like that. And I was like, shoot, is Braylon Allen falling in the masses? I don't want to be there, but how do you not fall in love with that? Even if he's not great his rookie year, because he is so young, he has everything that you can't teach, the size and the age. So taking the shot on him, you're probably going to get him with early mid second round pick, depending on the landing spot, of course. But I am so excited about this kid.
Where's a landing spot that you would like for him?
I mean, honestly, you've named 2 of my favorites. It would be the Giants or the Cowboys. Those are 2 teams that are in big desperation for running backs. The Bengals also, I know they signed Zach Moss, but there's a chance that they go for a running back as well, trying to reload that position.
I think a sneaky spot that a lot of people aren't talking about and are forgetting is the Cardinals. I would love to see him on the Cardinals with like James Conner is there. I like James Conner, but he's getting up there, right?
Let him get up there next year. I need 1 more year out of Conner. I need 1 more year. Because he's a bell cow. Who's he fighting with? Michael Carter? I love that right now. Oh, God, that would kill me. That would kill me.
I would love to see Braylon Allen there. He might not get the touches that you want him to see in his rookie year, but he would have long-standing value if he went to the Cardinals, and that's why I would love that landing spot.
I'd agree. Could you imagine if somebody like the Rams grabbed him to put him as a 1-2 punch with Kyron, just as that big body? But they don't play one.
I don't like Sean McVay with running backs, and I mean, you'll see a TikTok coming out soon with my Kyron Williams Dynasty Dilemma, and I've written 2 of them on Kyron Williams, and both of them have the con of the Sean McVay effect. Ever since he had the bell cow Todd Gurley, he doesn't know who he wants as his RB1, and he's not going to give him the bell cow touches that he wants because he's worried about injury. I get it, but you also need to utilize your players and utilize the running back that you have. Now, run Kyron Williams into the ground if you want to. That's fine, but just do it. He's so indecisive with the running back that I can't with him. I would hate.
Right, we need
I would hate any of my favorite.
Shit or get off the pot.
Exactly. I would hate any of my favorite running backs this year to go to the Rams.
Alrighty, our next running back we have, we've got to talk about that Michigan, that blue and gold again. Blake Corum, another guy decorated with production. This guy's touchdown share is just unreal with the amount that he had in comparison to that team. Coming out of Michigan as a national champion, of course, 5'8", 205 pounds, not a big guy at all, but he's got a nose for the end zone. Is he going to the Chargers? Like I feel like he's going to the Chargers as a second pick after they take a tackle with their first round pick.
He almost has to, right?
But then him and Gus, who's getting the touchdowns? They're both touchdown guys.
Just they'd be Baltimore of the AFC West because who's gonna get the touches and who's gonna get the touchdowns? One of them's gonna piss you off. It's just
probably
that's how it's gonna happen. But yeah, there's a lot to like with Blake Corum, like you said. He's a power back for his size, even at 209 and 5'8". I would classify him as a power back because he was getting all of the goal line touches. He was getting his strength is an asset. He can run through arm tackles, and the real questions are, can he withstand NFL tackling, and can those goal line carries in college translate to the NFL with the top of the top guys, right? And he actually needs to improve in his passing game because every time there's a passing down, Donovan Edwards came in, so there's really not a lot of tape. I don't know if he can do it or not. I haven't seen enough. And really, unlike Braylon Allen gets a lot of hate for his blocking, but one thing he was really good at is blitz pickup in pass blocking. Blake Corum's horrendous at that. So I think he might actually fall down some boards unless the Chargers take him, just because, he's not a pass blocker. But now when they pick up Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst, you put them in as an H-back role, you're going to be fine. So
Oh, that's scary. Like the amount of ways that they could run that offense out there. I'm just so nervous to have to like project that out. I'm going to start that here in the next couple of weeks, and it's gross.
Yeah.
But okay, so Blake Corum, he is I feel like it's very boom bust guy. He has the potential, depending on landing spot, to be, a very heavy touchdown guy, and then there's that possibility that, like you said, he falls down draft boards and never gets that true shot.
Yeah.
Yuck. Alrighty, let's get to somebody a little bit more fun, or maybe he is. I don't know. You got to tell me. Jalen Wright, coming out of Tennessee, he had a decent pro day from what I'm remembering, or a combine.
He had a good combine, yep.
Yeah, coming in at 5'11", 210, another bigger guy. He's that fourth youngest running back we have in this class, so, that's I do have an age issue. I'm sorry. I know my bias is here, so.
You really do have. You need to get that checked out. I'm just kidding.
You know what? These gray hairs coming out. At their their ripe old age of like 28. Yuck, old people.
So it's interesting because he might be one of the fastest ones, and he's got good, decent size, 5'11", 210. He reminds you of Isaiah Pacheco, though. Like, he has that kind of ferocity in his running game, but he has the breakaway speed, too, that Pacheco doesn't.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it's just, that's what there is to like about him. He was a great fit with Tennessee for, like, he needed to be a little rough and tough, but when he needed to get away, he could get away. Now, if Joe Milton could just be a little bit better with accuracy in the intermediate and short throws, they could have done something this year. But
with God, I completely forgot to put Joe Milton in our quarterback section. Everybody, go get him everywhere.
He has a piss missile. Yeah. But yeah, and I think he would be a good compliment for Josh Jacobs with the Packers because he also reminds me of Aaron Jones a little bit. So
Okay.
it's just more of a. I think that's another good comparison for him. So I think that would be the way to go, is to give him a few touches when Josh Jacobs needs a break.
Okay.
We're
So
getting
with
into this tier of running back where they're fast, they're going to get drafted, but can they withstand so many carries? And like Keaton Mitchell, it's just like he has breakout talent and he has good games, but oh, now he's injured, or he's always going to be second fiddle.
yeah, there's definitely a line between those guys like, Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara that don't need more than 15 touches to do something amazing and break away. So yeah, there's definitely most of these guys are going to fall into that category, but can they, do they have the skill and the talent and the situation? Honestly, a lot has to do with the scheme, the coach, the team, the running back partners. So as we say all this, a lot of it can be irrelevant as we get to draft day. And, it kind of hurts me saying this as we were 42 minutes into this. What the fuck? Jalen Wright, I guess, anything else before we move on to the next guy?
No,
You
the
got a
next
favorite
guy
landing
on
spot? Or I guess you said the
yeah,
Packers.
the Packers is my opinion of a favorite landing spot. But the next guy is kind of almost a carbon copy, and he might even be a little bit better than Jalen Wright. I actually like Will Shipley a little bit more than Jalen Wright, and that might be a hot take. It just I don't know. Clemson is a little bit more well known of a college football school, where Tennessee is dropped off a little bit. Now Hendon Hooker helped, bring it back, and their coach is from my home or from my town that I live in now. But so don't come at me, South Dakota. I promise. Jalen Wright is good. I just like Will Shipley in his game. He's got good instincts. He's great in space. He's got a good plant foot. He's got good hands. Like, what do you not like? He's good at everything. He's not great at something. So he's
Yeah,
the master of none, is pretty much.
I'm very much a fan of Will Shipley as well. And I don't. What you said could be hot takey, and I think, but a lot of it's going to depend on the draft spot because I think on
Yeah.
the other end, I think Will Shipley could absolutely crush what Jalen Wright does, depending on the situation. His best season reception share was 12.8%, which was above the class mean. So, again, when we're looking for these complementary backs that are coming out of this class, we're looking guys that can catch the ball, and Will Shipley can do just that, So, if he's going to a team and he has a higher reception total, we know that receptions are worth more than rushes. So, that's what we need out of these guys. And I'm there with you. 5'11", 206 pounds, coming out of Clemson. So, competition's it is what it is in the ACC,
You
but
know who he'd
I'm
compliment
excited.
well, Brian?
You said who?
Yeah, you know who. He's
Oh,
on your
Jonathan
team.
Taylor.
He would compliment Jonathan Taylor very well.
See, I
He would
just don't know if the
compliment.
work would be there, though. I don't see Richardson. He is going to shrink that pass catching pie just based on his rushing alone. So I'm already worried about guys like Josh Downs and Alec Pierce is essentially off my board everywhere because I know this pie is going to shrink. So he would fit well for NFL wise. I love Shipley to the Colts, but fantasy wise, I don't know if I love that fit there. Just with he's probably looking at a less than 8% target share at that point.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm also very negative on my Colts because the lower I keep the bar, the less I'm disappointed.
There you
And
go.
Vikings fan, you know.
I definitely know. Next guy on the list, I have mixed feelings about. So why don't you take this one, Audric Estime? You know him a little bit, don't you?
Uh, I know him enough. I was excited going into, I guess, the combine anyway, until he led the combine 40 and he ran that 40, and oh my goodness, it was kind of set the tone of where I felt for him. But Estimate coming out 5'11", 221, so a bigger back. He could have gotten away with having a slower speed because of that higher weight. But when you take his speed score, which takes those two metrics and puts them together, it still didn't come out very pretty. So
I
I
know
don't
he
know. Isn't
improved on
Kyron
his
Williams?
pro
He
day.
was.
I think he ran a 4.55 at his pro day, but that also
Yeah, I can
means
pay my
he
coach to
didn't.
be bad at the stopwatch too. Come on, come on.
And if that's true, why aren't you preparing for the scouting combine where that's national TV recognition? Like you need to be ready for that. So
100%. If anything, that shows me that your preparation skills, which that's something you can't necessarily measure on a spreadsheet, but that plays into your success absolutely in the NFL. We've seen
yeah,
so many elite talent players that just aren't willing to put in the work to continue.
agreed. And with all this talk with Audric Estime, I'd rather talk about the next guy on the list because everything that Estime can do good, and even his cons, Marshawn Lloyd does better.
Ooh,
That's what
I'm
I would
excited.
rather talk about because
Let's move to him then.
yeah, we'll move right past Audric Estime because Marshawn Lloyd is the old back that I like, and that's just because he's mature. He knows what he's doing. He might be. I think he's 23, 24 as
He's
well,
actually
but
22.3. So,
22.3. Okay, he's still a little young.
yeah. I
He's
was gonna
got
say, hey, you scare me with that age there.
sorry, but yeah, he's
Is he
not Ray
eating
Davis.
Werther's candies? No, no, he's still.
He's he's got good vision in the passing game. He's got good vision when he's running the ball, and his blitz pickup is the best in the class. I think it's I would put his blitz pickup one, Allen two, and he just excels inside and out. He's I complimentary back is not a good enough word for what he is. He's just he know like I've used this a lot, but he knows how to play running back. Like just the nuances of running back, he knows what to do. Now, with that, he does kind of sometimes do too much at the line of scrimmage, and his elusiveness kind of is subpar at times, but based off what he did at the combine, he should be moving up some boards because he looked great.
One little thing, call me a big fat liar. He's actually 23.3. Yeah, the site I was looking at
Okay.
they were wrong. I'm not going to call him out here because, we're a big show and
Well,
we could probably
and
go
I
right to that
I
website.
thought so because he transferred from South Carolina to USC, so USC to USC. But it's I knew he was a little bit older, but it's not. I'd still like him a little bit more than the next guy
He's
on the
not
list.
Ray Davis.
Who we can talk about next. What do you like about Ray Davis?
Oh, I don't. I really actually, I'm not going to lie. I looked into Ray Davis literally like nothing after I saw his age. When you know that the prime of running back's career, like 24 is it. So he's coming into the NFL already nearly past his prime. Like, sorry, man. Good luck. I hope you do well. I'm I'm not rooting against you, but I'm not drafting you. It's just plain and simple. I'm not drafting the guy. You can tell me he's got the best tape in the world, but I don't think I'm not buying it.
I have bought into some of his tape, but I agree with you. You've brainwashed me already into thinking about this age thing. So we might as well move on from him too, because
Right. Like,
I
was he
mean,
even at the combine? I heard he was standing in line for tapioca. It was like 4 p.m. They're
yeah,
like, "Come on, dinner rush for the old." No, I'm just Ray. My
I
bad, man.
mean, but
Don't mean to rip you
it's
apart.
like you said, like I don't know. I would take the 20, 23, 22, or I'd take the 22 and lower running backs before him. So where does that leave him? I think he's going to be a true complementary backup, and that's never where you want to be. And I'm not going to waste a pick on that when I can get a home run hitter in this draft class. That
Yeah,
could
I'll
be.
take an Izzy Abandakanda from last year, who is still only 21 years old, over this guy who's maybe the fresh hot rookie that's coming into the league. So
That's where he's going to
yeah,
go to is the Jets, isn't he?
God, I bet. Yeah, Ray Davis. He's an old fella. Good
So
luck,
with
man.
that, we have a few other guys on the list, and I know we're kind of running out of time. So do we want to speed run some of these guys?
Yeah, give me the lightning round.
So out of the ones listed, I really like Frank Gore, Kamani Vidal, and Isaiah Davis, but they're all kind of the same. They're a little bit bigger, they're hefty, they had all of their workload. But out of those three, I think Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State might be the one to watch. So out of those three, I would take any of them. I might take all of them. It depends on what I have in third and fourth round picks because I think one of them is going to hit. I don't know, but they're all around the same, and landing spot's going to be key. But For a guy to stay at South Dakota State or at Troy or at Southern Miss and still be getting some type of draft hype, that helps. Obviously, Frank Gore Jr. has the name, and he's going to have the sustainability with that name. That I think he also could be the easy one to pick. But I like all three of those guys. They kind of all do the same things well.
Yeah, Frank Gore, I just have this sneaking suspicion he's going to end up in the 49ers. Like, he's just going to end up in San Francisco.
And I mean, that's what I would compare him to, is an Elijah Mitchell type.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, they use him better than what they did with Elijah Mitchell, but I think he could take Elijah Mitchell's spot pretty well, actually. So, with that, what about the scouting combine darling, Isaac Garando?
You know, I've ever since I got to watch him kind of blow up on the combine, I was excited to kind of dig into him. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do a whole lot just because I kind of fell into the echo of what happens on Twitter. There's some people that love him, and then there was a lot of negativity I felt that came towards like a reason we weren't talking about him going into it, and I like you said, I think he's one of those guys that he's got enough speed that he's going to get a shot. But that might equate more to a special teams type role and, like more of a gadget player. But I don't know. What did you see?
Well, we talked about him a little bit. Do you remember where he started? He started in Wisconsin, and Braylon Allen beat him out.
That's right. That's right.
So it's just, I mean, in that regard, I'm with you. Like he had great numbers, and he is going to get a shot. But he's a Ray Davis for me. I'm not going to reach to get him, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. One guy I have seen pop up here and there when you really start digging in the articles. What's it? Dylan Lobby?
Yeah,
the kid from New Hampshire, 5'10", 206. Decent day at the combine. His little hip thrust he had there at the end of it. That was definitely what I was like. All right, who's this kid? Let me do a little digging.
D-Generation X, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Did you dig into him at all?
Just a little bit. I just watched a little bit of film. It is a little exciting, but it's also New Hampshire and the games that they play, so you got to take that for what it is.
So he actually, we're gonna pop the YouTube again. Dustin actually does a really good has an interview with Dylan Lowby before the scouting combine, like the week before, and it shows you what kind of guy he is, and he's smart. He's in the football sense, he's smart. And that gets you onto draft boards.
Yeah.
He tested middle of the road, which we expected because he only went to New Hampshire, so he didn't get a lot of play. He didn't get a lot of hype coming out of high school, but he's gritty and he's a fighter. He's if someone tells him he can't do it, he goes out and does it. Even if it is at New Hampshire, the scouts will find you. The talent assessors will find you, and that's what they're doing with him. So I think you're getting a guy that might not be fantasy relevant, but in real football, you're going to want him on your 53-man roster because whatever you ask him to do, he's going to do.
And I think he can fall into, if he gets a situation kind of like, oh my gosh, Patriots, James White, the Patriots running back.
Yep.
He reminds me a lot of that. Never a guy that's going to be depended upon to be the bell cow or anything like that, but can be out there, is smart, like you said, will be out there on passing down plays and can catch the ball. He had a 25% best season reception share. It's freaking ridiculous. It's unheard of for a running back. So for a guy to be able to take in those kind of catches, to be that quick dump off player, like you said, he's smart. He may not be quite that skill of McCaffrey, but just seeing him with the pass catching ability, it's kind of what you get glimpses of. So I think right situation, if maybe he can squeeze into that like round 4 picks, just enough draft capital that you could see something useful from him. But yeah, just one of those deep guys.
We have one more guy on the list. You want to before the combine, he was a lot higher on people's boards. So I think this is a good way to end because After the combine, he's slipping for sure.
Right. You're
But
like, wow, that kid's flying high. And then you realize, oh, he's a duck. Ducks don't fly that high. Yes.
and there, hint, hint, it's Bucky Irving we're about to talk about. So, what do you like about him? What do you dislike about him? And then I'll follow up with it.
The things I love me a big, thick fella. He's not that. He's under that 200-pound threshold, which is hard to get me to buy into. Jameer Gibbs and HN are going to ruin stats for decades to come because of what they're doing. But traditionally, this doesn't work when they're under 200 pounds. And I get it, times are changing the way we're being used, but it doesn't mean that the defenders are getting any smaller and are hitting any less, with less impact. So that size still has something to do with it. No matter what scheme you're in, you're going to get rocked. And then he comes out there and just, I don't know if spandex were too tight, but just shit the bed. It just came dripping out. Bucky Irving, Cody, what you got for me?
You have all of these analytics for not taking a guy, but I again agree with you. So let's
I'm the
talk
negative
about
one here, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, when I did my running back list, one of the cons is his size. I mean, it's undeniable. If you're under 200, that hurts your stock. It just does. One thing that we can also point out is the discipline in his run lanes. He wants to bounce it outside a little bit too much. But what is his strengths? Let's talk about some of his strengths. We've already bashed on him a little bit. He's confident. We thought he has decent speed. It's not elite like I thought and what we all thought, but his game speed's better than his testing speed. We can agree on that. Where he's best at is the outside zone gap scheme. That's where he thrives. That's where you're going to see him thrive the most. So you need an offense that does that a lot, or else he's not going to work. And again, he's got soft hands in the receiving game. He's probably one of the better ones in the receiving game. So he's going to get a shot somewhere. But he takes a little bit too much risk, and kind of like how I said Trey Benson, like his feet are too fast for his hips. Bucky Irving's deceleration to change direction gets him in trouble sometimes. You see a few too many slips, or his feet come out from under him a little bit too much for my liking. So I think in regards to that, yeah. I had him as my RB5. I think that's still safe just because a lot of the other guys kind of just it's complimentary back draft.
Yeah.
It's hard. After my top four of Benson, Brooks, Allen, and Marshawn Lloyd, it's really a toss-up.
It's all draft capital at that point.
So.
Yeah, I think Bucky Irving, as much as I love just taking my shots at people, I think him, I'm a Keaton Mitchell guy, but he is coming off a pretty serious injury. So him sliding into Baltimore, I think would fit pretty well, complimenting Derrick Henry a bit, giving Keaton Mitchell that time to kind of come back because, those two guys are going to play, similar roles with what they have. Tape, I didn't hate the tape. I enjoyed watching that, but like I said, it was just, him and Estime. They walked out on that combine field and they did no one favors, especially themselves.
So let's finish up with this in regards to, I think there's a spot where they desperately need a running back to help complement somewhere that I think Bucky Irving could fit, and that's the Cleveland Browns. Now, Nick Chubb will be coming back. Obviously, he's going to take a lot of the touches. But when you need someone just to be that gap scheme guy, Bucky Irving could be that, because we know Jerome Ford isn't. Jerome Ford, his game speed and his testing speed are two different things. He is slow. I do not like Jerome Ford in any format or anything like that. Fine, I'll take my shots this time. I'm a Jerome Ford hater. It just is what it is. I think they need to get someone like a Bucky Irving in there for a change of pace.
Yeah, I forgot they picked up Donta Foreman and Nyheim Hines in the offseason as well.
They have, but those are great guys to complement him for. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, Donta Foreman's going to be kind of more of that insurance back for Nick Chubb, and then Nyheim Hines. You hope after coming off that pretty bad injury this summer, non-football injury.
He's gonna be
who
a
knows what
special
he's got
teamer.
left.
And he's a special teamer. I mean, you're signing Naheem Hines for kickoff returns and punt returns with the new kicking rule. Naheem Hines is actually probably a decent fantasy play because there's going to be more returns and you might get some special team touchdowns for you.
That's what I wondered about. Like, I loved I guess it was closer to like 10-ish years ago when platforms were finally allowing special teams touchdowns to go to players, but you had guys like Antonio Brown early in his career that was still doing, stuff like that. Deshaun Jackson, you could kind of double dip. So, like, yeah, how many of these players are we going to now get that either are now fantasy relevant because of that or, have that extra, almost that spike upside, maybe like a best ball, player to really go after because.
And who does, do the Steelers let Cordero Patterson back there again? Because why wouldn't you? That guy won't die.
I tried so hard to be positive going into the Steelers situation with Arthur Smith going there. I was rising on Najee Harris going into the season, and then that happened. I can't even think straight now at this point. We got to get out of here. I'm going to start raging. Oh my goodness. So I am Brian. You can find me at @2much_Brian on Twitter. You can find me here on the Dynasty Pros podcast or YouTube page, both of them, whichever one you're looking for. And also on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I've got a nice best ball show going on over there. Come check me out. Cody, tell the people where we're going to find you.
You're going to find me on X or Twitter at Cody Folden. You'll see me on the Dynasty Pros TikTok, YouTube, and I write a few articles as well.
He's being modest. He says a few. They're pretty awesome. Make sure you're checking it out on the website there. You want some deep dives that you got here without me interrupting? That's where you find them.